Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I'm going to get right to it rather than a bunch of nonsense and get to the video. So I'm reading Uncanny X Men, and it's the second issue, sort of. It's kind of the real. It's kind of the first issue, but there's a couple things that have led into it. I think on paper it's the second issue, but it for all intents and purposes, first issue of this X Men Uncanny X Men crossover, and basically the idea, in a nutshell, is that Cyclops' team goes to save the Beast, who's been kidnapped by, dumbassery group who's hanging out in the what was left of the old X Mansion in Westchester. And Rogue's group is going to also rescues Jubilee and the girl with the magic horse from this same place. And I read this issue and I disliked it. And so I just want to kind of go through all the reasons why. But this is not going to be a ranty video about, the dialogue. The dialogue is awful, but it's more, I want to give some specific reasons why it doesn't work. And what I want to do for you is the comic and this moment is using a very classic premise, which is, something bad guys do shenanigans. Two good guy teams show up. The good guy teams wind up fighting each other rather than sticking to the task at hand because they have different tactics. They get on the wrong side, misunderstandings, blah, 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 blah. This plot is, I would say, as old as time, but it's as old as Fantastic Four #1. No, that didn't happen in Fantastic Four #1, but you catch my point. This is a very old comic book plot. And in many cases, a lot of people who are talking comics, including me, are saying things like, hey, just roll out the classics, for God's sake. And you don't need to try and surprise the readers and defy their expectations by having an entire issue set in a restaurant bathroom. You can actually do, you should actually, have a comic where, just if you can't think of something new that's compelling, then just do the old stuff, more or less, is something I've said. But here is a comic doing arguably the old stuff, and it doesn't work. So is all my advice crap? I mean, a bad actor YouTuber doing this would just pretend that this has ever happened. So I have to question my own logic. So that's kind of what we're going to do here today. To this issue specifically, there's a number of things wrong with it. The first being the X-Men, in this case, is, it's mainly done from the point of view of Rogue's team, is it's painful. This team is painful because it's Rogue, Wolverine, Gambit, Nightcrawler, and then the New Mutants that were invented because Gail Simone is hoping for a royalty check at some point when they have the girl with the magic horse on a Disney Plus show. It is. The new characters are written obnoxiously bad. So not only is the dialogue bad, there is just painfully stupid stuff. One of the characters that's kind of obsessed with death, ooh, he's goth, is like, oh, are we all going to die? Are you serious? That's great. Oh, wait, you're kidding? Oh, bummers. And it's like, it hurts. Like, I thought for this video, I mean, I'm in the car, so it doesn't really work, but I thought I could read you this dialogue, and it pains you inside. It's bad. Rogue and Wolverine are calling themselves cutesy little nicknames that come out of nowhere that are also like just uncomfortable. It's not that it's cutesy folksy, it's uncomfortable. The plot is got elements that are just weird. This goes to, both Gail and Jed McKay and Tom Brevoort and whoever thought of this. There's an evil organization that's, capturing mutants and doing, nasty shit to them inside of Xavier's old pad. It's like, what this villain? What is this villain? Like, okay, we got a woman who's threatening and she's in charge of things and she's kind of a bitch and she gets threatened by mutants and she just doesn't blink. She's such a badass bitch and she is like, I don't care if you pop your claws in front of me. Fuck you. It's just, but you don't understand, like, how did she get into this position? Why do we care about her? How how is this group? I understand that mutants are somehow hated after Orcus, but this group seems weirdly worse. We're actually running a secret prison on American soil at the expansion, and we're experimenting with mutants. And it just like, and the X-Men are kind of leaving it be. I mean, just a couple issues ago, Rogue, dropped somebody off with this villain. And it's like, here, you take care. Like, she was just there, like 2 issues ago, was working with these people. And now these people are like immediately turn around and kidnap Jubilee and then start doing crazy shit to her to cause Rogue to want to charge in and rescue her. And it's like, just like the whole thing is just like, who is this villain? What is this villain's motivations? Why was the heroes working with this villain 2 issues ago and now they're storming the castle? And why, and then the whole thing, like, you've got a 2 superhero teams that are comprised of like Magic, Juggernaut, certainly Rogue, Gambit. You've got Wolverine, for Christ's sake. You got Cyclops. You've got Fire and Ice Girl. You have you basically have characters that are ridiculously overpowered for this entire thing. I mean, we've seen in just 1 year ago, the mutants are perfectly willing to just murder people. Maybe they're not doing that now. Okay. But then, why can't, Magic can just teleport massive sections of this, this Grey Malkin army of bad guys, just teleport them into Limbo or Nevada or the ocean or what. Like, this isn't a fight. It's you can't show Wolverine battling his way through everything, and in this issue just kind of stands around. And then we've got these weird overpowered kids. And then that brings us to the big problem, which is these 2 superhero teams both descend. Cyclops like, don't go in there, and Rogue's like, if you don't get in my way. And so it's like, it's an unnecessary standoff. It's dumber. And so this is where I'm questioning, like, but I was asking for kind of the classic plots, and this is definitely a classic plot, except it's dumb. It's just super a dumb version of this. It basically comes down to, don't go there. I'm gonna. All right, well, we're both here. Well, you better stay out of my way. Well, you better stay out of my way. Oops. One of the heroes, in this case, one of the kids on Rogue's team, basically attacks somebody on Cyclops' team, and then everybody just starts immediately fighting each other. And, in the past, when they do this angle, you'd have like the voices of reason, which would be like the Captain Americas or the Wasps or people like that, who would be like, or hell, even in the X-Men themselves, they'd be in this situation when like X-Men and X-Force would actually just start fighting each other. You'd have Cyclops going, hang on a second. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. In this one, one of the kids shoots one of the X-Men. They start, Quentin Quire's on this team as well. Like this whole thing is dumb. But anyway, one kid shoots one of the other team, and they all just start fighting. And then Rogue's like, I'm not going to stand down now. They put hands on one of mine. And it's like, bitch, your team fired first. And what the hell are you even talking about? You're there to save Jubilee and Horse Girl. And you are, who, by the way, in the middle of the issue, Jubilee just saves herself. And you're like, what is even going on now? Are you telling me these characters who have decades of history with each other are so stupid that, in the classic versions of the 2 hero teams fight, they're manipulated to do so, or there's some big misunderstanding that gets them there. In this one, the heroes, there is no misunderstanding. The heroes just kind of show up and like just start fucking with each other. And then the villains are like hanging out in the background, like, God damn it. Like the villains are like also annoyed that the heroes are fighting each other. Like none of this makes any sense whatsoever. And it's not like the issue ends with, a misunderstanding. Now we got to work together. The issue ends with the villains like throw out some kind of presumably like mind controlled or zombified or something, Siren and the Blob, and I think Toad is in there. And you're looking at this and you're like, The heroes are still Rogue's like still like I'm gonna fuck up Cyclops, so get the chance. You're like, what is even happening? And I think it becomes a really great illustration of classic storyline, classic setup, executed just in the just baffling the dumbest way possible. It is like somebody like Tom Brevoort said, "Hey, what we want to do a crossover between these two X titles, X Men and Uncanny X Force. Uncanny X Men and X Men, Cyclops team and Rogue's team, and we want to do this crossover because it's been 6 issues, so it's time to cross them over to boost the sales. And so what if we create a situation where the two teams, got in one of those accidental fights, and then they have to work out their differences to stop the real bad guy." And it's like the writers involved, and in this case, we're seeing the Gail Simone version, was just incredibly lazy at picking up that assignment. Basically, was like, all right, well, what's the least amount of work I can do to get these two teams fighting? And the least amount of work turned out to be, you go home. No, you go home. Nuh-uh. Fight. Like, I've seen more battle setup in Mortal Kombat, the video game, than in this. And so it goes to show, you can't just roll out the classics if you don't understand why the classics work. In this case, the classic is, misunderstanding leads to heroes fighting and, taking away from the objective, and they have to get their shit together to actually fight the villain. And the villain is usually underpowered from the superhero teams. Superhero teams do enough damage to each other that allows the underpowered villain to kind of briefly take control, and the heroes have to work their way out of it, get past their differences. Pretty straightforward. But if you don't set it up in a compelling way, then the characters just seem retarded, which is what happens here with these two teams. And the fact that you have, again, the dialogue is not doing any favors. You got Rogue like, "What's the time I used to respect Cyclops, but things have changed." How? When? Cyclops basically emerged from the fall of X, Krakoa, as being a massive inspirational leader, basically going on trial and putting himself in the mouth of the lion and surviving and helping to take down Orcus. Like, he came out. Are you talking about when he was possessed by the Phoenix and killed Professor X? Is that because in Marvel time that only happened like 3 weeks ago? But what are we even doing here? I think that comics, my original premise still holds. I think the comics do need to go back to a lot of the classic storylines because they're simple, they can be executed relatively easily, and you can roll them out. However, you do need to do it carefully. You do need to roll these comics out. You need to roll out these classic storylines, understanding the fundamentals. The fundamentals are you can't make the heroes look so stupid that by the time you get to the actual fight, it's like watching the kind of bum fights. It's got that level of thought to it, and the villain doesn't get empowered through this. The villain's just kind of like, what the fuck is going on here? Which is what's happened. And you don't get anywhere. So I don't know. This comic, I recently talked about the X Men. It's just a recent example of it. It can't be this bad. And I don't know if it's just nobody cares or this is laziness, but in theory, you listen to interviews with both Gail Simone and Jed MacKay, and they're like, this is a writing assignment of a lifetime for both. And to have this outcome, it's like, I like Jed MacKay. I like him as a person. And I think he's got talent. I predicted when they were going to put him on X-Men, and he's also on the Avengers, and he's also on Moon Knight, and feels like he's also on some other things. He did that Blood Hunt event. That is a horrible mistake to put this guy on all those comics. He is spread way too thin, and what we're seeing is, this is showing. And then for Gail Simone, for Christ's sake, somebody get her a dialogue writer, because you can't like even before you get to the dumb fight, you hate these characters just based on how they're written. It's just not good. So anyway, what do you think? You loving this comic? Some of you do. You write in like you're a jackass. These comics are great. Always my policy. I'm very glad you're happy. No sarcasm. I'm glad you're happy. But eesh, I I can't look. I predict you're not going to be happy for long. Like nobody has the endurance to live with this nonsense for much longer. It won't. You won't make it. Like everybody's gonna give up on this. It can't be like this. Anyway, thanks for listening.